Hello, everybody. Steve Tate here. Just going to get a little bit more in depth into some things that we can do in action, and going to use my 5-year franchise file as well. And decided to test a 24 team league and do some auto playing, and thought, hey, how about I can go through some tips on how to set this up, talk a little bit about scheduling, and how do you set up a league like this. So I've got these 24 teams that I've imported from, 12 teams over here from the my NL file, and I just picked some teams at random and tried to vary it a little bit. And then over here I've got the AL. And what's interesting is I've set this up in a certain way, and the reason being is when you create a blank league, you can decide where you pull the teams in. I think I covered it last time, right? See, I could get on here and move my teams and drag them around. But what's important is where I've named my two divisions, I want my teams to be in these slots over here for the NL. And if you scroll down here, I want them to be in these two slots that show up right here rather than sitting randomly in different slots. The reason is because since I have 24 teams I'm going to test, I decided to use a real MLB schedule as a template to do this. And I know many times people have asked about, hey, how do you use I can't remember the last time I used the auto schedule generator. I just don't know if it will create a variation throughout a year that exists in MLB where, you know, if everybody plays these teams three and then we rotate and have the same days off and the same number of series games, it's a little too unrealistic for me. So I love to take a real MLB schedule, use that as a template. So how did I do it? Well, I set up this league and made sure that I had the teams set in these slots and nowhere else. And why? Well, here's a little snapshot of because I went into 1973 when they had a 24 team league, and I mimicked exactly the slots that they were using. So they had these two over here for the National, these two for the American. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do the same thing. The reason this is important is because now when I go to overwrite the schedule, it will take the 1973 schedule, which I'm going to use as a template, and the New York Nationals that sit up here in the first slot that are now occupied by my Cincinnati team. Cincinnati will inherit New York's schedule, and Milwaukee will inherit St. Louis, and over here the 27 to 31 Yankees will inherit Baltimore's, and so on. So if any of these teams were out of order on my blank league I set up and not in the same as the schedule template I'm going to use, they won't match up. So let's talk about how to go get the schedule template. The reason I chose 73 is it was only missing one game. I went to Baseball Reference and saw that every team had played 162 games except there was one game missing, a a New York Met at Chicago Cubs game. I went and looked at the retro sheet and found that there was a couple rainouts, so I made a couple changes on the 1973 schedule and went and take a look right here. Go to 1973, and you can see that set up the same way, same number of teams in these slots. I went into the organized schedule, and you'll see that it has the regular schedule that is the default schedule the game will play with, and then I had the 1973 schedule that I was able to edit a couple of the games here in September and include a day game here that was missing from the as played that comes with the game. And then on the 29th, I was able to add another game and then remove a doubleheader on the 30th that they were trying to catch up at least one of the two games at the end of the season. So the result is I've got a 162 game schedule for 2014 league. Um, and then I saved it. And I'll show you how I did that. If you go under your main DK Sports, mine's on my D drive right here, DK Sports, where all the data is kept. I went to baseball, I went to seasons, and I went to 1973 because I wanted to use that schedule. And each season will have this in it. It will have this sked.skd. That's the schedule file. That's what it reads. So what I did is I just came here, clicked on it, copy, pasted it, okay, made a copy, and then I renamed it 73 as scheduled. I can get rid of this now, don't need it. And then once I had that, I thought, you know what, I'm going to keep some of these because I haven't really done a lot of this. I'm going to start doing it. I'm going to keep this as a template. So not only is it sitting here in 1973 as a template, but I also went up here under DK Sports and under baseball, I created a folder that didn't exist because this is where you have your ballparks and player photos and sounds and all that. I just created the schedule templates. And now I know, and I renamed it 2014, I have a model schedule that exists for a 2014 league. I can use that going forward for any 2014 league I want, as long as I make sure that my league is set up visually and in the right slots as the league I took that schedule from. So a little bit of info and kind of a shortcut to get around it. The one thing when I was playing with the game is you'll notice, I'll go back to my test league that we'll use tonight to kind of run through some sims and test some different things out. What you'll notice is when I go to organize schedule, right? And I've been messing with this. If you click on, I've just created a blank schedule as a backup because I imported the 1973 schedule I did, but then I changed the name under the seasons to be the actual SKED because for some reason, if I had multiple schedules here, even if I selected the schedule, when I went to start running my league and playing games, it didn't show anything. So what I did is I just replaced the SKED, the default one, and now you can see I've got a schedule for my blank league, and it starts on April 5th with an opening game with Philly and Pittsburgh, um, and they're playing the schedule of whatever teams did in 1973. So you can see now as you go through here, there's different games on different days. So it's not going to follow a repeating pattern of 3-game series, 4-game series, 2-game series. It gives you that variety that you would have in a season where you always don't have the number 1, 2, 3, and 4 pitchers facing the 1, 2, 3, and 4 pitchers. This is just um, the way I like to play it. And I think when I get time, I'm going to create more templates, right, for different size leagues. 32 team, 26 team. When 1976, when the Blue Jays and Mariners, or 77, I think, when the Blue Jays and Mariners hit. Um, so just a little insight into how you can kind of go about creating that schedule, and leave some comments if you got some more questions, and I can do some more in-depth stuff as I learn to play a little bit deeper with that feature. But one of the cool things here, if you're new to the game, is that you can build your own schedule here, right? I mean, but how tedious would it be to do this? That's why I think the import's better. A lot of options in here to be able to add different series links and build it, but it can be pretty tedious. So I'm a big fan of, hey, find a template you like with the same number of things as somebody's already built and bring it in. The generator, the auto generator, I have to honestly say, I have not used it in probably 10 years. And it's probably the one thing that I'll hear complaints with a lot with this game is, man, I've got a league set up, but how do I get a good, schedule going with it? And to me is, man, if you could just set it up that mirrors an exact number of teams that existed, go in and grab that one and use it. The only thing you might have to do is, if it's an as played that the Action PC games come with, take a look at the standings because not everybody maybe played 154 that season or 162. So it may require you with Retro Sheet and Baseball Reference to hunt down the handful of games that maybe got rained out. And Retro Sheet's great for that. And go in there and make those little changes, and then you've got yourself a template. To me, that's a lot easier than the tediousness of going through here and and doing it. The other option is importing a schedule that maybe you've built off a retro sheet from a CSV file. That's another great option. I haven't even messed with that yet. So maybe this will prompt me, if I start doing some of more of these videos, to actually dig deeper into some of the areas that I haven't really messed with at all. So now that we've got this set up, I'm going to run my test league and kind of see how these teams play. I go into rules because I've just created a blank league, and you can see I've already set some rules up here, but I mean, what do you want, right? I mean, tons of options in this game. Um, Quick setup, I could just do as played or all transaction. That's great for an existing season. And I think a majority, at least after 1940 or something, maybe even earlier with action, they've got as played lineups, right? A lot of the seasons have all transactions too, call ups, call down when people are out for injuries. So you'll see that. In a league like this, none of this applies, right? Um, General, I'm going to, again, we talked a little bit earlier about the average standard pitcher average. I'm just going to try cross era historical average for this one. Bullpen warm up, we always use in the head to head league, which is always a little strategy there. You get a pitcher up and um, maybe tire them out before you need them, or you try to bring them in too soon. So that's a fun option, but playing against the computer or auto sim, not really needed. DH, these teams are pretty stacked, so I'm running DH in both. Interleague I have checked, even though aren't going to be any interleague games. Got park effects on. I could do generic left-right splits for people who have below 50 plate appearances, in case somebody, had 20 at bats against lefty, got 10 hits, and they're showing as a 500 hitter. So I kind of like to take anything under than 50 and let them do generic left-right splits, kind of a historical version of that versus having some anomaly because there was few plate appearances. You can set up usage stuff, having a penalty. I'm going to play with no penalty, right? Meaning if a player had 300 at bats and they get 400 in the game, they're still going to perform. But you could come in here and set this and say, hey, if they get over 120 or look at all this 200, whatever percentage, you're going to give them a penalty, and then you can choose how much to reduce their hits and walk by that overuse. So for this, I'm just going to kind of leave it off. You can turn on realistic rest days for position players. I'm going to keep that off. So again, if you've never set up or run a league, a lot of decisions to make. If I choose to play a game, I love to have this stuff on the base stealing and outcome box. So I'll leave that because what I may do here is as we demo a few sims, I may pop one in and play one game, and then we can kind of sim through the season and take a look at some of the standings here. I've never really dealt with any of this quick play, but I guess you could stop on some major things if you were major events if you were doing a quick play. Again, here you can change the name of the league, do different things. Another thing here that a lot of people ask about too is I have all my player photos in the main player photo thing. But if you wanted to have like photos just for 1975, and this was a 75 season, this is where you would go and click this box, and it would create a subfolder within the player photos for that specific season. And that way you could have accurate player files that change season to season, like with players, changing teams, and you've got a face shot with a different hat. This is where you would go and set that up. And that's telling the game that, hey, you're going to go find these players in the 1953 season because that's what I'm playing. Or in my case, this would set up a folder called Test League, and then I could go and hunt down pictures for just these 24 teams I have here and drop them into that subfolder. So um, I haven't messed with the subfolders because I have so many players on this file that, I have Reggie Jackson for the Yankees and I have him for the, Angels and I have him for the A's. So I have to kind of manually hunt around when I go into player rosters and assign them that way. So I just drop everything in the main player photo. I think that's about it here. So when I want to play, we're ready to do the season, I can go up here. I always go up to play and hit schedule league game, and it should go to the first game of the schedule. See, there we go. And April 5th, here we go. So if we're going to sim this, I could go in here and choose to right now say, you know what, I'm going to toggle this to human, and I want to play this because I want to control Philadelphia. So the great thing about this view is you can go in if you're running a league and just auto sim however many you want, or hop in and play a game if you want. You could also go in here and say, I want to play all the games for and pick whatever team. I want to take Detroit 07-11 here and control them. And when you did that, it would change all of their games. You'd see an H next to their team, meaning it was human controlled. So It gives you kind of a nice view here. It shows you the division setup. This is a 162 game 1973 schedule. So you could go in here and play today, play April, play through select a date here. If I click on the 30th, it'll ask me if I want to play right through that date. So for example, if we wanted to autoplay the opening game right here, I just hit auto. Let's autoplay it. It's playing it, boom, results are in. Cool thing about it now is I can just click on the box and take a look. I think it was Lance Power or somebody commented on my first video I did. If you haven't noticed, I moved from my 34-inch wide to the 27 wide because what I found out is for some reason the box score on my super wide screen cuts the player photo off and you can't see their name and the information here. So now this got a much cleaner view to get this, but take a look at the box score here and see that that old dead ball Pittsburgh team put a whooping on those Phillies. Nice recap here. You'll notice I have pictures created. Some of the files I've been working on. I don't have them done yet for many of the teams. I do have them for the 70s Phillies. So we can go down here. And the other thing I noticed is I didn't think I was getting MVPs on exhibition games, but it's because I did not have, or I was doing it on the widescreen. So you can see here, it's showing me MVP was Tommy Leach in this game. Batting, what do we have here? Now Leach went 2 for 4, knocked in 2 runs. Got the first game out of the way, right? So that's done. Now we can move on to the next day. Hey, what do we got going on here? Well, we've got a bunch of these. Let's say, since we're going to run some sims, I want to go all the way through April. So I'm going to hit April 30th. I'm going to say play through April 30th. Let's see right here. All requested have been played. Okay, well, let's try something different here. Don't know why it's not letting me. It's kind of odd. So I've got this imported schedule template. It wasn't letting me select a date and then play the multiple weeks there. Or maybe it is right now. Oh, now it is working. So I think this should take me through whatever date I picked. And you can see this is kind of the speed it's simming. You can toggle over here. I've got batting leaders on here, but I could go over here and just hit this leaders tab and choose to kind of watch it update as the games are played. You can track down here below. You can track your the standings. You can also see upcoming matchups here. I think highlights. Let's click on highlights. You can see some real quick highlights from the games. Oh, 5 home runs from that Yankee team on April 7th. Quite a feat. So all requested games have been played. So I basically played a week, right? And we can take a look at that. Now, see if I click on this one. Let's go ahead and play through the end of April. And then we'll go in and take a look at some of the team stats, and I may fire a human played one up here. But this gives you the idea of the speed, what you can see. We've got a live option, I believe. Like if we're slowing down and playing a game, we can pop over and get updates. I've never really even paid attention to that when I've played the game. That's another feature that's there that I know some people use. Looks like John Candelaria for California's got a nice ERA to start the season. Still early. A couple weeks into the season here. In looking at these, I just kind of randomly brought some teams in for variation, but I don't know if any predictions. That dead ball Pittsburgh team looks like they're off to a hot start. We got that giant team with Carl Hubble and Bill Terry. We got the Schmidt Lazinski Phillies. We got the Mets with Gary Carter and Hernandez and them. Montreal. It's kind of a fun team. I've got an Atlanta team in there. I'm a big Red fan. It was only national, big Tiger fan growing up, but the only team I really ever pulled for in the NL was the Cincinnati Reds. Got that Tony Gwynn team and Aaron team and then Willie Mays team. So, and then that Stan Musial St. Louis team. So we can see as they progress. What Toronto's looking pretty good over here. I brought the Kansas City team in that has Bo Jackson on it. That's not a great team per record, but hey, it's got Bo Jackson on it and George Brett, so that's fun. Picked the Boston team with Canigliaro on it. And the 27 to 31 Yankees are 8-9. Who would have guessed that, right? So now we've played through, I think, the 29th, or all the way through May. So what we can do now is you can exit out of this, and you go right in here to your main screen. And let's start taking a look at some of the reports in the game here. Put this on snapshot. So if we take a look at reports, oh, here we go. Test League. Now we've got it updated so you can start seeing a snapshot of the league and it'll show the compiled stats through April. You can see how the teams are doing. You can see who's leading. And you can see some of your all-star voting that's going on here. Some of the reports you have, take a look at league reports, bunch of standings. Let's look at all-stars. Let's look at League One. So that's going to be the NL League, and you can start seeing the voting right now based on that first month. That Carl Hubbell, he is really tough. Carl Hubbell is just really a great pitcher from such a hitting era in the 30s. That guy was put up some really good pitching numbers. Kind of see the all-star voting. It's always fun to watch, right? Some of the other fun reports here for the league. You can take a look at hitting streaks, some highlights. Here's the active hitting streaks right now. The longest we had 15 for Chris Chambliss for the Yankees, and you can see the longest current one right now is Jim Spencer's got one. So tons of things in this game you can look at when it comes to reports and players. You can look at replay versus real batting. Some of the team reports I like because this is a good view if you want to go and take a look at each team. So you can just toggle through each team here on the left and get some really good snapshots of what they're doing. So if we look at Atlanta here, you can start seeing their opponents. You can go over here and identify what you want, categories you want. You can sit here and click on this and sort it however you want. Hey, who's leading in average right here? We got Chipper Jones, and what we're looking at right here is real stats. So now I want to see replay. I just go right up to the top. Bang. Let me get replay. Now let's see who's got the most at bats. Now Chipper Jones, who's leading the team in batting. We can scroll it that way. So to me, this is a great report. I like to come in here when I've got managing a team, right, and kind of examine it this way. And then you can scroll team by team, right? I've got it on replay. I can always do that, and then I can go back and toggle back to the real stats if I want. Another way to do it is if there's a team you're interested in or you're coaching. Let's say I'm coaching the who's the team that's doing so good? Pittsburgh. Let's go take a look at them. Let me pretend I was actually coaching this team. Click on that. This is another way you can go over here and see down here in the bottom right, it says real stats. I can hit replay stats. And then I can just look at them right here from my team roster and get a view here as to how they're doing. See, Honus Wagner's doing all right. Another fun thing once you're at this thing is the player card level. So let's pick Honus Wagner. Take a look at him, and you can see here, this is another view I love because now you can look at his card and you can see what his real numbers were and start tracking what he's doing in the playoff. Or sorry, playoff, the replay. It's great, right? And you're able to look at all these different categories it's tracking. So when you get over here in the replay, it's going to track clutch, home, road, day, night, how he's doing, multi-hit games. It'll track what they did month by month. Then you'll look at your average plus, OBS plus, and all that good stuff and see how they're comparing in the replay. Oh, look, he hit a 418-foot home run. So, hey, he's playing more average modern baseball out of the dead ball, but 8 home runs was pretty good for the early 1900s. You can see he's already got 4 in a month up here, so he may be a terror, um, playing a little bit more modern style. And then this is a nice spot too here because I can just look at my whole team. Hey, there's Ginger Beaumont, and I can cycle through here and get this player view, which I think is great. Same thing on fielding. I've got fielding stats in here, and now you can see this guy, Tommy Leach, had 92 games and 55 in center field. And you can see how the computer manager is choosing to use him, right? That he's been playing third base. They put him in at shortstop. He had 3 games. They haven't used him there, and they put him in center field once. So you can kind of see how they're tracking based on their real fielding. Interesting stuff that's been put in here in newer versions right here. Love it. Home runs robbed. Pretty cool stats. See, who are we looking at catcher wise on here? Boom, there you go. So we got Ed Phelps, who's a catcher. He's only played 1 game in the replay, and you can see here it starts tracking some of the catcher stats that he's had 1 stolen base against him. Pitching stats. Let's see who's doing. Got it on reel. Let's see who's doing good on the replay here. Oh, well, we've got Vic Willis with who's 4-1, who started 36 games. So let's see how he does. But again, you can compare it. A lot of detail. I look at when I first started playing these games, and you go back to like Status Pro, where you got the pencil and the paper. I'm like, man, I love having all this information. It's just so convenient that it tracks all this. I mean, look at this. It's tracking his quality starts, how many pitches, percentage strikes. I mean, his run support. I mean, look at this. How am I going to track run support? Pencil and paper. I'm still a love pencil and paper, by the way, but I just have notes laying around here where I do some of my research and I get my kicks that way doing that. But when it comes to gaming and having it all built right into this with all these reports, I love it. I just get lost in here looking at all this stuff. So this gives you an idea of some of the other features when we look at reporting. Um, Game recaps. I mean, we can come back here and I want to go see what happened in this Oakland game and look at game recaps. Another thing that's interesting too is when we're at the team reports page right here. Let me see. Oh, this may not be the right one. I'm going to view. Where was it? Let me take a look at a player. I think that's the one I'm looking at right here. Here we go. If I'm looking at a player, here's George Brett, and I go over, I can see how they performed versus teams, and I can look at game logs, which is great. So I can go back here and say, whoa, this guy had 4 hits and 2 home runs. Let's go take a look at this, and I can click on that, and it will pull that box score up from that game, so I can take a look and get a little bit more information on that. You can see Brett went 4 for 5, 4 RBIs and 2 homers. So that was a heck of a game. So just another way, just so easy to navigate. While you're in here looking, you can just take your cursor and click on it, man, and go back and look at all this stuff. So you might see something interesting here. Manager, that just lets you set a specific manager for each player. So what I did before I started this is I went in and just ran default managers to set depth charts, lineups, pinch hitters, defense, lefty, righty, uh, suggested lineups, all that good stuff, right? I haven't gone in and touched it and tried to tweak it myself. So I just let the computer do that. But here for George Brett, you can come in here and personally manage him, right? Like, if he wasn't a great hitter, I'm going to say, get rid of him, or he's not great defense, we'll pull him for a late inning defensive sub. So you have all this control on how you want to use him right here. So tons of options right here. And it'll start showing you right here at bats, his real at bats, and it'll show you his percentage and what he's on pace for, right? So if you're in a league or whatever and you're trying to track usage, it gives you the ability to do that right here. All fun stuff. So let me go back to the play here and see what we got. And maybe we'll just do another week here. Let's go to May 11th and see if there's an interesting game coming up, and I'll go pop into that and play it. It's really puzzling me how we've got the 27 to 31 Yankees below 500, but hey, it's still early. I'm kind of interested to see. I've run a couple tests while I've been doing this 5-year file, but it's been months ago, and I've run several tests with 24 teams, right? Just bringing 24 teams, but that was when I had less than 50 teams uh, in each division. Now I'm up close to 80 in each, and I'm gonna have to start running some more of these. It gives me an idea of what kind of a project would I run here. Maybe I bring in 24 at a time, right? I bring in 24 teams from like a certain period or between 1960 and 80 or whatever, and bring 24 in and try to run a league. Yeah, Herb Pennock for New York's got a great ERA, and the team just went over 500. Look out, folks! They're climbing up. They're only 3 back. See how they're doing here. Interesting. So we've played those games. I'm gonna take a look at what games we've got coming up on the 13th. We've got Cincinnati here at St. Louis. We've got some interesting ones here. Trying to figure out if there's one I want to be interested in. So I think I'm just going to send them through May. So as you can see, we can go through May. I can go over here on this tab and click and just take a look at my leaders. You can see Cleveland's leading the way in pitching, and those Black Sox group is doing all right with team batting. See what we got batting wise. It's showing both leagues here. So we got Fred Clark and Bill Terry leading the way. Oh, Cleon Jones is up there. Gehrig and Ruth, no surprise there in home runs. Again, we've got a guy leading in pitching and 2 home run hitters like that, and I'm still looking at them. They're just barely above 500. So anxious to see how they turn out. See if they can chase down that Cleveland team and those Toronto Blue Jays. But Pittsburgh looks extremely tough over here. The amazing Mets. That looks like a pretty competitive division right there. First to last is a 5-game spread. Got to have those San Diego Padres represented, but I'm not sure when you've got a league like this how well that 82 to 86 team really does. It's just, other than Tony Gwynn, just not a whole lot of greatness around that team. I'm a bigger fan of that Montreal team. That's a fun team with Timmy Raines and Dawson to play with. So here we go through May. Another week to go. So what I may do is use this sim and sim, a few months at a time, and use these as some videos to upload and kind of highlight some features. If you've got any comments at all, anything you'd like to see, post them. And be more than happy to try to cover them. But I'm trying to see what other features as we kind of go through this series. I've had some people say that they thought it was nice to be able to cover some of these and highlight them. And again, I may learn something. Somebody throw some comment in there and say, "Hey, Steve, here's a shortcut," or "You missed this," or "You didn't know this was there." Please let me know, because I'm looking to learn Again, this game has evolved and it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And each iteration comes out, I look at the new season I have and I start playing and the video chalkboard's better. And I don't spend the time to go in and just really examine every feature. And there's so many. All right, so now we are at June 1st. I can exit out of here and let's see as we're updating now, what do we got here? So we've got, man, Pittsburgh is on fire over there. Let's take a look at some of these Yankees here. What's going on with this Yankee team? Let's get a good picture here. We have got, we've got, take a look at the game started. You've got, yeah, they're getting beat up a little bit, right? Batters, let's take a look at our OPS. Yep, you got Ruth and Gehrig both up there, but both under 300, right? But in a league like this where you've got great people, historical average, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. Take a look at Babe Ruth's stats so far. What's he been doing? Fielding. It's like the computer managers. He's played a few games out in left field. Looks like the computer managers got him in right. Let's see. Lou Gehrig, one of my favorite players ever since I was a kid and saw Pride of the Yankees. I became a Lou Gehrig fan instantly. You'll see it's tracking games started where that wasn't available back in the time, but he played all the games and he's doing that here. A little better fielding percentage so far. And you can see here, if we're looking at both leagues, some of the all-stars, if they're looking at both leagues. And right now, leading the MVP voting would be Gary Carter. So let's go take a look at Gary Carter and see what he's up to. And there's Gary Carter. And he is batting 159. So why he is in the MVP running, no clue, unless he's doing some great things in the field or he's just a fan favorite and Montreal is stuffing the ballot boxes because, oh, look at me. What a moron. I'm looking at that's a rookie move right there, right? I'm looking at the wrong one. How about I go to the Mets and see this Gary Carter? There we go. Now that makes sense. There we go. Okay, he's hitting 331 with 18 home runs. So, yeah, he's on fire, I would say. So Gary Carter's tearing it up. Fun stuff. So, here's my plan. I think let me know if there's any questions you've had on what we've covered. I can even do some more in-depth stuff on the schedule. I'm going to play around a little bit more and try creating myself some other schedules, 28 teams, 32 teams, 40 teams. And have those ready to go so that if I do create a league, I've got that ready to drop in because I just really think taking an existing MLB schedule and the way it's varied and plays out provides much more realism. And I may also get some time and start creating using the auto generator just to see how it works, what it does, and see what my thoughts are about that. One thing I had a couple of people reach out to me and talk about me creating these files and doing the manual data entry, right? Where I'm going to the actual sheets and taking like this, I'm going in here and editing all the batting for these people and editing all the real stats and all that good stuff. I went in and actually downloaded where is it? Organized. Let me see. Utilities. Boom. I went in here. Oh, still can't find it. It's somewhere. Hold on. Import user created spreadsheet. And I'm like, let me check this out. So I took a look at it and I'm like, let me create a blank one. So look at all the things you'd have to fill out to create everything you need. Because you're going to put in fielding stats. So you got to have all the fielding ratings, data, everything in here. So when you if you select all of these and create a blank spreadsheet, 145 columns need to be filled out. So I may spend some time and see if I can take my own Excel spreadsheets and maybe bring them over and see how this imports. Now what it says, so in this season, let's go take a look at that, by the way. I'm going to take a peek at that. It says here, new players will be added to their team. Players not assigned to teams will be created as free agents. So it's making me think that if you created a blank league and had no teams, you could just import a bulk import of players, because that's basically how the all-time baseball history file is set up, right? Blank data cells will not delete stats. Use zeros to delete. Okay, good to know. So there's some tips here. So if I go to seasons in my blank league, where am I at here? DK Sports, baseball seasons, and then I'm going to my blank league test right here. Here's a bunch of the game stuff I have, and under here I should have some kind of a schedule. Import spreadsheet. See what this looks like. And here we go. Wow. First name, last name, height, weight, pitch, hit. Yep, it's all there. Problem is the stuff I track is completely in a different order. So I'd have to figure out and say, okay, is it easier for me just to come in here and do that? Then I'm going to have to research and say, okay, team, what goes here? Interesting. Maybe somebody that's actually used this needs to do a video on that, right? Because I may have a long way to go to get up to speed on this. So for me, it's like, it's a lot easier just to, I've got all my raw data and just to go ahead and import from my file, because that's the way I've got it set up for me. So I think it's going to be a wrap up for tonight, and appreciate any feedbacks again. If there's anything anybody wants to see covered, we can go over some more of the details of anything we've covered or anything we haven't yet for suggestions. So another thing I clicked on here is straight the leaderboards, which is right here, right? Another view you get where we can take a look here at the leaderboards, and you can look at just the NL, AL, just by division, right? And you can display whatever, top 20, batting plus, all these different stats, right? And you can take a look at league leaders right there. Now that's real stats. So where am I gonna, yep, let's change it to replay. See what we got going on in the replay. So Ty Cobb's doing things like you'd expect, all the teams together. Ty Cobb's leading and hitting, 12 stolen bases. You can go down here and kind of see who's leading in the different categories. Willie Wilson's got 9 triples already. Ruth with home runs. So, going to call it a night. And again, post any comments, and I will be back, and I'll probably use this blank league to kind of highlight some stuff, and we'll kind of carry it through. I may play a game next time and do some stuff with that, and then eventually get near the end. In fact, I maybe when I'm off video here, may sim a little bit closer to the end, and then we can sim out the last and see how that full season turns out. So thanks, everyone.